Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real Positive Girl podcast with me, Sabrina. This is the show that's going to help you become your best self, and I love supporting and helping you guys as much as I can with all the different topics that we talk about. Today, we are going to be talking about 5 lies we tell ourselves and basically how we get in our own way. But before we do that, I do want to invite you over to say hi to me on Instagram. Please send me a DM so we can be friends in the chat, so we can just talk, or you have feedback, you have a prayer request, anything and everything. I would love to hear from you. I am at Sabrina Joy Perozzo, but I would love to get an email from you if you prefer to send emails. That is realpositivegirlpodcast@gmail.com. All of that information is available in the show notes below, but I would love, love, love to hear from you because I just appreciate you downloading, listening, sharing the show. It's amazing. And if I could chat with you, I would love to. That'd be great. But let's just jump into our episode, which again, 5 lies we tell ourselves. So it's super easy to lie to ourselves, right? I feel like it's super easy to lie to other people too. Like, I feel like that's probably, well, I don't know. Some people are better liars than others. I feel like I'm a really good liar. I know that sounds really weird to admit to. It's because growing up, and I've shared this before, I feel shame in it a little bit, but not so much that I'm like shaming myself. It's just a period of time I was going through based upon the events in my life. But anyway, I used to highly manipulate the adults in my life because that's the way that I could get what I needed. And it's the way that I felt like I needed to go about my life to survive with the abuse and everything that was happening. And so I feel like that is how I learned how to lie, because I had to. I felt like I had to, right? And that's not necessarily right or correct or the way that it should have been. I agree. But a lot of other people in my life were lying to me, and I knew that they were. And then that's kind of how I learned, like, oh, well, if you want to get what you want or get people to be convinced that they're better than they are, you have to be a good liar. And that's what I did. But anyway, so and that's also like here's a little side note. If you found that there was a period in your life where you spent a lot of time lying or manipulating others, either or both, but you don't do it anymore, just know that I'm not saying that it was okay or was a good choice to make. Definitely not about mine either. However, if you've been able to move on from that and that's not something that you fall back on anymore, then good. Because it's a classic example of how we were stuck in something, a behavior or a mindset that was not healthy for us or those around us. And we have overcome it and worked our way out of it. Do we struggle with it sometimes? Maybe. But that doesn't make us a terrible person. But at least we know that we are growing out of that experience, right? Right. Okay, back to this. So it is super easy to lie to ourselves. It's super easy to tell ourselves something isn't happening, something isn't affecting us, nothing is wrong, or even that you will get to or deal with something later. You know, how many times are you like, oh, I'll just deal with it later, or it's fine, I'll get to it, or, I just don't want to feel those emotions right now. I will just deal with that later, it's a dangerous game. I'm telling you, it's a dangerous game to play. But more often than not, we are trying to tell ourselves things have to be a certain way when that's not really true, right? Lies to ourselves are pretty deep in limiting beliefs by telling ourselves we can't do something, we shouldn't do something, and it needs to be done a certain way or not at all, and extremely, extremely limiting. And you know what? I knew talking about this topic would be super helpful to chat about because it's something that we all struggle with, right? And, a lot of the topics that I talk about, I do try to find ones that a lot of people will relate to. And there's definitely some in there sprinkled in there that maybe not every single person, despite the fact that you may be struggling with your mental health and your mindset that maybe you didn't deal with, right? A perfect example of that is when I had the episode that was talking specifically about physical harm to yourself. And a lot of people probably don't necessarily struggle with that like I did. But there's going to be a few. But this one, talking about lies that we tell ourselves, I knew that just about everyone would be able to relate to this because we're all out there telling ourselves lies because we think it's the most comforting thing to do in the moment. But I also thought this would be a helpful topic because it's it's something I haven't really spoken about either, at least not directly spoken about. I have, well, okay, we'll get into that in a second. So now, before we get into the lies, and I have 5 of them to share with you today that will be super helpful for you to think about. Again, it's not going to be a conclusive list, obviously, but it'll be 5 really good ones for you to think about. But first, let's talk about cognitive dissonance. And that's what I was going to say a moment ago. I have done an episode talking about cognitive dissonance in detail. So if you do want to learn more about that than the quick basis I'm about to give you in a moment, please go back into the podcast archives and listen to that episode. It'll be really super helpful for you. And I'll probably record a new one in the next upcoming months because I feel like it'll be super helpful. So anyway, that's just a side note if you want even more detailed information, again, about cognitive dissonance. So the lies that we tell ourselves have a lot to do with cognitive dissonance. This is a term that basically means we as people have a tension between who we believe we are and how we're behaving, right? So those can be seen as 2 different things that don't necessarily commingle, are not best friends, are not twins by any means. The tension is between who we believe we are and how we're behaving. And there's an inconsistency with our thoughts when it comes to cognitive dissonance, the inconsistency with thoughts, beliefs, actions, and, it really boils down to finding a way to relieve that tension and unease that comes from uncomfortable situations. Now, why did I tell you what the term was? Because I find it's important. There are definitely places out on the interwebs where you can learn about, maybe someone else will talk about 5 lies that you tell yourself, and they will never tell you that it's connected to the actual psychological term cognitive dissonance. Why am I doing that? Because I just think it's fun to learn and to be smart. And if you do find, after listening to this and maybe doing some of your own research, that you struggle with this and you want to seek help in addition, you have a term to tell them, not just like, oh, I'm lying to myself. You can be like, hey, I'm pretty sure that I struggle with cognitive dissonance. Can you help me? And then you'll be like, oh, your helper, your therapist, your trusted friend, your mentor, your whomever will be like, oh, okay, I get that. Well, I mean, for sure if they're a therapist, maybe not someone else. But anyway, I just want you to be on the same page that I am, and that's why I wanted to tell you it. So, cognitive dissonance. And, this will make more sense when we go over the examples I pulled to talk about today, for sure. But for a general definition of it, cognitive dissonance is the perception of contradictory information. And so that sounds very similar to what I'm talking about, where there's like tension and unease from uncomfortable situations. There's a contradictory between who we believe we are and how we're behaving. It just all makes sense. And, it can be contradictory because you aren't sure how you should feel versus how you want to feel, or even, which is probably like the worst one I think out of the list, at least for me, how someone else wants you to feel, right? So there's people in our lives that want us to feel a certain way because they think they know all, or if we feel a way that's opposite of them, it creates pain for them, and they're selfish enough to make you want or have to feel the same way. Do you know what I mean? So this is why it's so easy for us to tell ourselves lies, because with enough confusion, you just want something you can lean on and move forward with. You don't want to continue to be in the cyclone or the tornado of confusion. That's not fun. It's so unsettling, and it just creates so much pain, in your mind and a lot of times in your physical body, if that's how you process those kind of things. So today we are going to talk about 5 common lies we tell ourselves and what we should do instead. So first on the list is, I don't have a choice. Ask yourself, have you told yourself, I don't have a choice? I have to do it. I have to do whatever it is. This is a lie because it's not true. Now, it's not, you might be saying like, oh, of course it is. Of course it's true, Sabrina. It has to be because, there are times where I really don't have a choice. You always have a choice. It's just a matter of if you feel like you can fully go through with the other choice. So let's say I'm going to take a very extreme example, just so you know. Let's say that, you have a really super abusive, rocky kind of relationship that you're in. And someone says to you, well, why don't you just leave? And you're like, oh, I don't have a choice. I have to stay with them. And your reasons could be that, they support you financially, you have kids together, you are fearful of the opinion of others if you split up, you're fearful of, whatever consequences may come from that partner of maybe coming at you and hurting you and anything else that could happen. So you say, I don't have a choice, right? Because you think that the choice of leaving that person is not going to end well, and you would rather just continue to slug your way through the abuse and the pain because you're used to it, right? And it's something to note here is that you will say that you don't have a choice because you're just used to it. You're like, okay, well, at least I know what this feels like. At least I understand the expectations. And then there's nothing new. You don't have to branch out and do anything new, right? You don't have to go through the pain of learning something new, learning how to be on your own, learning how to parent your kids by yourself, learning how to, get into healthy relationships even. I know this has to be speaking to someone. So saying that you don't have a choice is not true. You have a choice. You could definitely leave that relationship. Or let's say it's another example. You could definitely leave that job. You could definitely not be friends with that person anymore. You could definitely not spend that money going out on the town just because everyone else says that you should. You have a choice also, always. There's always another choice to make. There's always another choice. It's just a matter of if you have the courage and the determination to make that other choice. Do you? And if you don't, you feel like you only have one choice, but I'm here to tell you that there's always another choice. It's probably a harder choice, most definitely. It's probably a choice full of way more unknowns than the one that you're currently choosing. Of course, it's not going to be easy, but there is another choice. And if you seek out help and support from someone else, they might be able to help you along with that alternate choice. You don't have to continue to live in the unpleasantness of whatever it is you were in, or the pain or the abuse of what you're currently dealing with, if you don't want to. Yes, there might be consequences and there's going to be hard times moving on, taking another route. But will it be better in the end? Maybe. I guess it depends on what the choices that you're making and which ones you're between. But in regards to the first example of an abusive relationship, yeah, it's going to be better. It might be hard and scary at first, but it's going to be better than being abused on the regular. I'm telling you that for sure. Okay, the second lie, second common lie that we tell ourselves is, I have to be perfect. I even still struggle with this lie of I have to be perfect. I tell myself this often, and I used to tell myself this every single day, multiple times a day, because I felt like, well, definitely when I was a child, that expectation was definitely on me, for sure. And then as I got older, in high school still, college, well, I was the one putting it on myself. And ever since then, of course, I'm in charge of that. I mean, I still was in charge of it as a child, but it was just those expectations were thrusted on me from my dad, for sure. But it's a lie because you can't be perfect. No one's perfect except for Jesus, and that's the end of that. But you don't have to be perfect because, not only because you can't, but because it's an unrealistic expectation, even if someone else is putting it on you. Even if someone else is like, well, you have to be perfect or you're not going to fit in. You have to be perfect or I won't love you. You have to be perfect or I won't like you. You have to be perfect or you are not going to succeed, or you're not going to make money, or you're not going to have fun, or you're not going to get married, or you're not going to raise good kids, or you're not going to be able to start a business, whatever. There are so many things that revolve around You feeling like you have to be perfect. When in reality, you shouldn't. Being perfect should not be your goal. Learning and understanding and continuing to grow and become stronger should be your goal. And generally, you will hit those goals by failing. You will hit those goals by making mistakes. You will hit those goals by doing everything opposite of being perfect. And yes, you're like, well, I could hit all my goals by being perfect, Sabrina, and it's been working for me so far. Sure. Okay, but how much pain and anguish are you going through to be perfect? So it's whether it's like maybe it's school, parenting, being a partner, your spouse, being in a relationship, being on a diet, working out, doing any of these things, right? How much pain is it for you to continue to push yourself to have to be perfect and then freak out the moment that you're not and afraid that someone's going to see you slip because you're not perfect? It's unnecessary. I am telling you, I promise 110%, it's unnecessary. You don't have to be perfect. And anyone telling you that you have to be perfect, they are delusional, but also they are struggling with their own baggage and they're putting that on you, right? Projection. This is projection. Because they are finding faults in their own self and feeling the pain and the anguish and the stress of trying to be perfect. And they want to make sure other people are also going through that same pain and stress. And to maybe see if you are able to accomplish it better than them. And then they can just model after you, right? No, you don't have to be perfect. It's a lie. You don't have to be perfect. And if someone is claiming that you do, again, you don't want to have a relationship with them no matter what it is. Even if it's your family, and you need to understand it's an unrealistic expectation that will not help you grow or become your best self. It just won't. Okay, number 3. The third most common, well, not the most, a third common lie that you tell yourself is, if I ignore it, it'll go away. If I ignore it, it will go away. I want you to just know that this is just not true. It's not true at all. If you ignore it, it'll go away. Yeah, okay, maybe if someone is talking to you, or like, I don't know, out somewhere, and if you just ignore them long enough, they will go away. Maybe. But maybe they won't. Maybe they'll still be there and bug you and do it on purpose to annoy you. But generally, when we tell ourselves this lie, we're thinking of like a problem or a situation that's happening in our life. And if we just ignore it, we won't actually have to deal with it. And because it's going to take a lot of time, energy, stress, overwhelm for us to actually deal with it. And that's not fun. It's not fun. It's not fun having to deal with anything, really, in that way. Like deal with it, like truly deal with it. It's not fun. And so if you ignore it, it will go away. It's not true. It won't. Sometimes it seems like things will fade away. Even people will apply this to their feelings. If I just ignore the fact that I'm sad, it'll go away. Yeah, it'll fade away a little bit, for sure, but it'll be there, waiting. It's like I don't know, maybe like over a year ago, I think I talked about how if you continue to sweep your emotions under the rug, they will feel like they're not there anymore, but one day something will just spark and you will blow up your volcano of emotions that will all come spewing out. And that is not the healthy way to go. So you just can't ignore your emotions, but you can't also ignore situations in your life where you should just deal with it. You should just give it the attention that it needs, like glean any learning lessons you got from that experience and move on, right? And if you continue to put something off because you just want to ignore it because you think it's going to go away and it doesn't go away, then it causes more turmoil and stress, which again, why would you want to drag it out? That sounds no fun at all. So again, if I ignore it, it'll go away. Not true. Okay, so number four for a common lie that we tell ourselves is, I'll never be smart enough. I'll never be smart enough. So this can also tie back into feeling like you have to be perfect, because if you feel like you are not at the same intelligence level as someone else, then you can feel pretty stressed about how you feel like you'll never be smart enough. But it's not true. And this also goes into something that I love to talk about, and I'm learning more about, is growth mindset. So there is a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, which I will talk about in the coming months, a whole episode dedicated to it because it's super important. And it's something that I will love in the soon, very near future. I'd love to actually coach people one-on-one and in groups about, because it's so fun and it's so good and it's so exciting. Because you know how I talk a lot about how mistakes and failures are the best ways to learn and grow and experience life? Yeah, it has a lot to do with that. So anyway, if you're telling yourself, I'll never be smart enough, it's because you have a fixed mindset, most likely. You're believing that whatever smart intelligence that you have, you were just gifted with that, or you're just blessed with that, or that's just what you're given and you'll never amount to more, when really that's not true. If you actually understand that you can put time and effort into learning something, studying something, understanding something, you can be just as smart as someone else. Now, someone else's intelligence could be elevated in a higher way, especially if you're talking about Albert Einstein or someone like that, or even wonderful, amazing painters, Jackson Pollock, Van Gogh, all of these things. But that's just because those people have been elevated because they're super popular, big in culture. But it doesn't mean that if maybe you are a painter and you're like, wow, I'll never be smart enough to paint like Jackson Pollock. That's not true. You just have to keep doing your own thing and continuing to grow and make mistakes and go through those experiences to continue to hone your craft, to continue to get better at the thing. And I want you to know that it's definitely common to understand that just because you have to put effort into something doesn't mean you aren't smart. And I feel like it's definitely something I've read about in one of the books I'm reading right now about mindset, is that it's a common misbelief that if you have to actually try to understand something, then you're not smart, because smart people generally just know things. They just pick it up. They don't even have to try. But that's not true. There's so many smart people that continue to have to go through different trials and phases and, fail so many times before they actually hit the mark, before they actually get going, and then just continue to be better. And that can be you. That can be all of us. But we have to put the time in. We have to put the energy and the effort into learning and understanding something as much as we want to. So by telling yourself, I'll never be smart enough, you will. And you are. And you can continue to be. But you have to make it a point to continue to be learning and accept that mistakes and failures will come, and those are good things. Those are great experiences. Hard in the moment, absolutely. No doubt about it. But great experiences that'll make you stronger in the long run and smarter. Absolutely. Okay, so the last lie, one of the common lies I want to tell you that we tell ourselves, it's a good one. I mean, they're all good. But it's one that, I believed for a long time. But it's because I grew up not with a lot of money. We had things. It was weird. But we were still on food stamps. And then, I was able to get a job and things happened and, money came along. But I wasn't really educated in happiness and money. Anyway, let me just tell you what it is before I go on a rant. So number 5, the lie that we tell ourselves is when I get this, or when I get blank, I will be happy. It's a lie, because physical things don't bring true happiness. They just don't. They can definitely bring temporary happiness, for sure. In the moment, you're like, wow, if I finally am able to buy my own home, I'll be happy. Sure. I was definitely happy when we bought our first home. It was a great day. And moving in and having a place to our own, especially when we only lived in a townhome and an apartment before that, it was great. But then, as time went on, and if anyone's a homeowner, you understand, when you're a homeowner, you have to do a lot of freaking work to fix your home, especially if you're not rich and you just pay other people to do it. Regardless, there's still problems that come up because it's your own home. You gotta fix it. And so I was definitely happy in the beginning, but then there are definitely a lot of up and down rough patches that you just deal with because you have to fix it. Or you're like, well, I'll be happy when I get my perfect dream job. Okay, so let's say that tomorrow you get your dream job and you're just doing it, right? Well, what if it gets really hard, Or what if you don't have anyone supporting you in the beginning of really understanding this dream job or doing it well, right? Or what if it turns out to maybe not necessarily be the thing that really does fulfill you, right? So even though I've just spoken about like one physical thing and then one not necessarily physical thing, you can't continue to tell yourself that when I get blank, when I get this, I will be happy, because that's not how it works. You have to lean into the joy that's in your life, in your heart, in your mind, and understand that you can just find happiness when you have everything and when you have nothing. Because if you lean into gratitude and understanding that you're on a journey in life, you can be happy where you're at and know that there are different seasons of life where things will be up and things will be down and things will be like in the middle. It's just so important because, I told myself for so long, man, if I have this, I'll be happy. A lot of people will tell themselves, well, once I have a child, I'll be happy. Or once I have a child, this relationship will be better. That doesn't work a lot of the times, It doesn't. And, or when I get to be this certain weight or dress size, I'll be happy. This is what I still struggle with, because I do have a goal of being like a certain dress size. And I feel like I will be happy when I hit that, but I know that I can't have all of my happiness sitting on that one goal, because what if I don't make it, right? What if I just stop at like the size right above it? And that's just where I am for the rest of my life. Am I going to be disappointed? Am I going to be unhappy? Am I going to be depressed for the rest of my life because I didn't hit this goal? Am I going to let everything hang on this one goal when there are so many other amazing things happening in my life, like being able to start my own business and the podcast and my family and vacations and holiday time and heck, man, a nice good cup of coffee. All of these things bring me happiness. All of these things contribute highly to my happiness. But honestly, even in some of the hardest times that I've been through, there's still moments where I can find happiness, because it's like, okay, well, I'm going to lean into the things that I know that I'm grateful for, because there's, no matter what season of life you're in, whether you have everything or nothing or in the middle, there's always a few things you can be grateful for. And even things beyond like having breath in your lungs and food on your table and, being able to have a roof over your head, even beyond those things, there are definitely a couple things in your life you can be grateful for, and leaning into those things and finding the true joy of just being alive and learning and growing and being with the people and just doing what you're doing right now, you can find joy. Now, again, I'm not saying that if you didn't have a lot of money and then suddenly you came into money that, that you wouldn't be happier. Yeah, you'd probably be happier because you wouldn't have to worry about paying your bills or doing whatever, right? But you can't hang all your happiness on these things, on these goals, these achievements that you want, because they might not happen, or they might not happen the way you want. And if you're just going to continue to chase things like that, you'll be chasing them forever, and then you might not ever be truly happy. And I feel like the more time we spend focusing on trying to be happy where we are right now, the easier it'll be to be happier more often than not. And then really cherish those moments when those amazing big things happen where we are able to buy our own home. And it's just a bonus. Cherry on top, right? So that's definitely a lie we tell ourselves, that we'll be happy whenever this happens. It's not true. But that's all 5, you guys. And again, this is not a conclusive list, obviously. If you want to learn more about it, I encourage you to just Google the lies that we tell ourselves. I think there's also a book called that, though, and it's not like an educational book. I think it's a fiction book, so don't get confused with that if you are going to Google this and find more lies to, research and think about and see if they relate to you and what you're going through right now. So, but hopefully I didn't confuse you in any way on understanding cognitive dissonance, and that this was helpful for you to understand that you don't have to lie to yourself for comfort. Because I feel like a lot of this is you just want to be comfortable, you want to be easy, and that making that easy choice isn't always the best choice. It really just isn't. So hopefully this has helped you, and and that it's great. So thank you so much for listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast, again with me, Sabrina. Again, thank you for listening, sharing, downloading the show. You guys are absolutely amazing. Again, come visit me on Instagram at Sabrina Joy Barroso, or send me an email, realpositivegirlpodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Any feedback, topic suggestions, prayer requests, just to say hi and chit chat. I would love to hear it. But until next time, have a good one, and I'll see you guys next time, okay? Bye.